unfortunately. Yeah.
We are
Edit that part out.
We are trouble.
If anyone's filming.
So I'm so happy to have you here in LA and finally checking out Nova 3. What do you think?
Yeah. Guys, what about this venue, right? Oh my God. There are not enough Instagram photos to top up. I went to the bathroom for the second time because it was just so beautiful.
It's such a vibe.
I didn't even have to pee. I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go.
Yeah, I love it here, especially bathrooms. Okay, so Bobby, I have been very impressed with your growth from Clubhouse, starting out with these film and entertainment shows, rooms. They were daily. You had investment rooms. How did you leverage your popularity on that platform, this Web2 platform, into a job in Web3?
So it was a very circuitous path. So for anyone who doesn't know me, I'm from Canada, like the land of moose and igloos. I'm now 45, and when I was 43, even though I'd been in the film industry for 20 years, I'd never been to Los Angeles. I didn't have a network in Hollywood. I didn't know anyone in the US really. And then Clubhouse came along, this app. It was like audio only, and it was during the pandemic where we were all looking to like connect. And then I very quickly became one of the top personalities on the platform for Hollywood specifically, which was very shocking because I'd never even met people from Hollywood. And then all of a sudden I'm running rooms with some of the top Hollywood producers and also European film producers. And then I ended up very quickly running the biggest film finance room in the world. And then from there, I became national news in Canada because Canada, anything American, Canada's like, oh my God. And then from there, I ended up being attached as an influencer to projects in finance all around the world. And that's where I started to learn about crypto and NFTs. I didn't know what an NFT was until like January of 2022. Didn't know what it was. I heard about it on Clubhouse. And then I learned enough in a short period of time that I was asked to speak at a conference in Utah about how crypto and NFTs could disrupt Hollywood finance. And so because of actually what I learned on Clubhouse, right, in terms of film finance, and also what I learned on Clubhouse in terms of NFTs and crypto, I got this opportunity to do a little keynote. And then when I posted the poster on my Facebook, a friend of mine I hadn't seen in 15 years said, oh, by the way, I'm now producing an entire television network about crypto. Would you interview for a hosting position? And then I said yes, and I got the job, and the rest is history.
So now that you are the host of Blockchain TV, what would you say that the biggest mistake, and this is on theme for our conversation tonight, what is the biggest mistake that most mainstream media outlets make when highlighting Web3?
So I have quite a lot to say about mainstream media, especially because I knew enough about the basics of like crypto and NFTs to sort of confidently interview people. Because also in Clubhouse, I was interviewing people 5 days a week for about a year and a half, right? So I knew that, I don't need to know everything that the guests know. It's not possible. These are world experts. But I know enough that I can like follow the conversation and ask them questions. But then when I started doing research, because I didn't have a business journalism background or anything, but I did study economics my first year at the University of Toronto, which is like one of the best schools in Canada. So I was very confident in my ability to understand financial conversations. So then what was really odd is that as I started to research, like Bloomberg and Yahoo Finance and CNBC and like all the sort of like top business journalists in the space in the world, I kept hearing Bitcoin's a scam, and Coinbase, oh, that won't be around next year, and NFTs, oh, that's for kids, like just really stupid things. And as I started to learn more, I realized, oh, they don't know what the hell they're talking about, because you hear like very, very irresponsible things said in a public venue, which clearly shows they don't have knowledge. And then as I built my show, we started to build an audience. There's even in our team, it was very clear that I was the most knowledgeable person in the world of blockchain. And that actually becomes a problem as well, right? And everyone's doing their best. But I was like literally reading about crypto and NFTs and blockchain 16 hours a day, every day, no days off for months, right? Like just work, 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 work. Just because I wanted to be able to interview people more confidently and understand what the hell they're talking about. You get people at the highest level, you know, in Web3, they're going to just say all these, you can't know everything, but you should know enough that if somebody lies to you, like, you know, right? But there's other problems that I experienced that for sure is happening in all the mainstream media outlets, where even the intermediaries, assistants, news editors, marketing departments, they don't quite understand blockchain technology. So you have all these gaps. Even when you have knowledgeable people, they'll market it in an imperfect way because they don't quite understand what crypto is. They don't know the difference between crypto and Bitcoin. They don't understand the difference between NFTs. They think everything's a monkey. You know, they cannot parse the nuances because they do not understand the broad strokes. So it's not really just like the hosts are dumb, although I do think a lot of them don't do the research. It's that the entire machine is somewhat ignorant of blockchain technology, and you can't really confidently, you know, espouse narratives in a public venue if you don't understand the technology. That's the starting point. That's not even the best conversation. That's the starting point to have the conversation.
So considering that barrier, do you think Web3 will become mainstream? And what will it take for it to become mainstream?
100%. Look, this week alone, I've had multiple people want me to come on like as a consultant for Web3 projects. Some of them are film, some of them are in business. So anecdotally, I know that people are very interested, partly I think because the price of Bitcoin is up something like 80% in 2023 alone, right? At a time of a depressed economy, like Bitcoin looks pretty good, right? And so that, I think, is the entry point for the casual viewer. And I've noticed that as the price of Bitcoin specifically increases, I get more views on my show, right? So all of a sudden, like one of our biggest clips is like, what is Bitcoin? The origin of Bitcoin. And you just see it go up, 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 because it's like, but it's related to the price. So people, even though people in the space are not, I think there's an over financialization of Web3 protocols generally. But I think the entry point for most people to care at all about blockchain technology, is like, I can make money? Oh, what is this Bitcoin thing? And then from there, they'll branch out to the more complex concepts.
That is the perfect segue to my next question, which was, what are the topics that get the most viewership on your network? So you just said,
right,
you know, the most basic, what is Bitcoin? Because people want to learn. What are some other topics that seem to do really well?
Okay, so there's three main topics that would generate the biggest audiences. Number one is defining the broad concepts that people have heard about, right? So what is Bitcoin? What is an NFT? Basic things. The second thing, which also probably wouldn't surprise anybody, is celebrities. So the more famous, you know, you have somebody, if they're like an executive at a huge company that they've heard of, right? Or they're a celebrity themselves. You know, we were just talking, I had Terrence Winter, who wrote Wolf of Wall Street, nominated for an Oscar. He was on my show. Brilliant, humble, amazing person. A lot of people were like, oh my God, oh my God. The third thing, actually, which surprised me, that actually gets quite a lot of attention are the highest level creative technological concepts, right? So for example, I did a show on Lex Cryptographia. So by show of hands, who knows what Lex Cryptographia is? Raise your hands.
I feel like you just made that up.
No, I know, it sounds made up. It's not made up. And it was just because I did all this research, and it was like this European crypto governmental exec, something random, because they, you know, so MiCA basically just got passed in Europe, which is like legislation for Europe to establish crypto regulations, which will probably be the template for the entire world, rightly or wrongly. So I was reading an interview with one of the people who was deciding what to do with MiCA, and then she just dropped this thing, Lex Cryptographia, and I was like, what the hell is that? What is Lex Cryptographia? And it apparently, and I've had an academic on my show, and it was a brilliant show. So it's a legal system idea where it would be run entirely by DAOs and smart contracts. So you could automate the legal system, which is crazy. And if you think about CBDCs and all the different technology, can you imagine you're being tracked at all times, you commit a crime, all of a sudden the computer goes, oh, you committed a crime, the Uber comes, picks you up, takes you to jail in 4 minutes.
That's the literal straight to jail
Right?
video.
So the technology exists, the concepts exist. Obviously, like structurally, like we're not there yet, but that concept is terrifying. And when you take the idea of CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, where the money comes directly from the government, and they can track, well, that's what they're doing in China, right? Is that they're tracking their citizens' private data through their own money. That's what CBDCs are doing. And then you can add on, imagine any smart contract you could add to a Web3 protocol, you could add to your own money. You throw in Lex Cryptographia, where your own money is tracking you, and then, I don't know, your wife kicks you out. Oh, cool. Then boom, they take the child support. Boom, you go to jail. Boom, you get, like, all of those things can happen. It's theoretical now, but the technology already exists. Anyway, so those are the types of shows that surprisingly people are very interested in.
Well, it sounds very dystopian to me.
Sure, but it's also real.
Yeah, it's scary. So what is Mika? You were explaining that to me last night.
Yeah, I mean, so look, every jurisdiction in the world is, coming up with their own ways to deal with crypto, but you're starting to see commonalities. For example, one of the main tenets for Mika, which is, again, Europe, which I do believe, unfortunately, is going to be massively adopted, is in their legislation, which just got approved. So you will now have centralized exchanges send your private data to the government. Okay? So basically, I don't know, but I think it means the end of anonymous transactions in cryptocurrency through centralized exchanges. So you can still use DEXs, you can still do stuff, but we all know most people are using Coinbase. Look what happened with FTX. Look at like Binance. It's like that's where most people are going to go, and that means all of that data, by law, all the KYC, AML, all that stuff is going right to the government, and all of the different major players, in terms of the research I have done, looks to Europe as a starting point, and they're going to copy the central tenets, and you're going to start to see this sort of like mainstream, somewhat authoritarian control over crypto, Web3, variations thereof.
Wow, I feel like I'm learning a lot right now. So how about we show the audience a clip of yours from your network, talking to a Fox producer from...
Well, actually, so she is the head of blockchain strategy for all of Fox. Fox Sports, Fox News, Fox Entertainment. It's like $100 million fund. It's essentially the blockchain department, but it exists as its own company. But she's essentially in charge of all Web3 strategies for all of Fox.
Yeah, that's huge. So we'll have a little snippet. We'll watch it for a few minutes to get the gist of what Bobby does over at Blockchain TV.
For anyone who doubts the Web3 evolution, consider that the biggest corporations, banks, and governments have quietly made significant moves into Web3. One of those major corporations is Fox. Today's guest, Melody Hildebrandt, is the president of Blockchain Creative Labs, responsible for aggressively moving Fox into the blockchain space. Melody, welcome to the Daily Drop.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Yeah, and it's amazing like how much you've done in your career. I'm very excited to have you here, but let's start right at the beginning with legacy media. Do you think legacy media still is today?
I guess I'd have to contest the word legacy here in a way. I guess unless by legacy you mean trusted and time tested and connecting with audiences. I think any kind of pre-existing media, say a non-digitally native brand like Fox that has longer history, I think we see this as part of the future. So it's part of an evolution. Like Fox has evolved itself multiple times, to be relevant in today's technology, today's infrastructure, today's consumer expectations and behavior. And we just kind of see this as the new frontier. So I think it is essential to us, but it's kind of part of an ongoing evolution about how do we bring our content to our fans in the most compelling way.
Okay, so this is the moment I realize how much smarter you are than I am. So let me just take a moment. Okay, got it. What challenges is legacy media? Your definition was amazing. But what challenges are we facing right now in terms of technology?
Yeah, I think we look at a few things. One is, what is the new consumer way that they often interact with media? What is like their first initial entry point? Who are they going to? And increasingly, we're seeing, I think, just a new class of intermediaries. Whereas previously, you might have, in the social revolution, that obviously really changed the way that fans discovered content, found content for the first time, potentially, had aggregated content served to them from different big technology companies. I think obviously today we see a whole new frontier with TikTok and influencing culture and just how, the young people of today, increasingly in particular, are looking to trusted people to actually determine what kind of content they want to consume. So there's really just like a new set of intermediaries. I think that we think about, we want to ensure that we can still have that direct conversation with our fan, and we want to have a thriving intermediary relationship as well to help people discover our content who might not know to come to us directly, to go directly to our URL. But that we have to ensure that we can maintain that direct connection, which I think is really important to us. It's what our fans are looking for as well. They want to feel like they have a relationship with us. So I think that's the challenge. Like, how do you think about the intermediaries who are potentially owning the customer and own that relationship? And how do you have your own direct audience with them?
It's interesting. So I was a partner briefly for a Gen Z content creation brand. And during my research, it was very interesting how the average Gen Zer apparently trusted YouTubers way more than, let's say, legacy media personalities. I mean, is that troubling?
I don't think it needs to be troubling. I mean, I also think about, like, well, who is breaking the news? Who is the original content creator? And often, I think those influencers, for example, are providing their take, their summary of what they think is important, but that is built upon their digesting of all these original primary sources. So I think we should encourage that entire ecosystem to thrive. You can't expect that everyone's always going to come and read all of the underlying source material. They might want to read aggregations from their favorite influencer. They might want to ask ChatGPT to summarize it for them. But all that content is built on the back of original source reporting. It's built on the back of original content creation. So I think it's just important for us to persist that kind of value throughout the chain, even if consumers are able to unlock incredible new value through these influencers. And that's obviously, they're kind of voting with their money or where their time is spent with how they want to consume that content. But again, what's underlying all of that? Like, and how can we persist through that relationship?
All right.
Okay,
so
let's talk about Web3 when we get back from the break, because
perfect break.
Right.
Break time. Where can people find the rest of this video? Because I believe that goes on for about 20 minutes. Correct?
Yes. Okay. So. Right now, we air nationally on Canadian television on a channel called the News Forum. Although we're now negotiating deals for U.S. television, we're also looking at Australia and Asia. So there's a lot more interest internationally. Right now, Blockchain TV is supposed to be built out as a U.S. television network. So we haven't actually launched yet. So in Canada, you kind of have to be in Canada to watch it on TV. We do have they have sort of a small social media presence. So we have clips on YouTube. They post some of the full episodes online at the website. But right now we're mostly focusing on how we're going to package the 40 episodes that we've already shot as a sort of soft launch to promote what we envision as sort of Bloomberg meets MTV, strictly for the U.S. television market. Yes.
And what is the website URL so people can watch the rest of this?
I think it's like just newsforum.ca.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I mean, if anyone cares, I don't know if you do. You can follow me on socials, and I'm always posting clips and episodes.
We'll get to that at the end, so everyone can follow you. But before we get there, and we'll be opening it up for Q&A soon too, so get your questions ready. What are some other credible news sources when it comes to Web3 besides the Daily Drop that you'd like to recommend?
Sure. So for me, I think it depends obviously on what your lane is. I consume pretty much all news content So for me, it's a blend of obviously certain people on Twitter, certain YouTubers. I personally, for my job, I pretty much need to read Bloomberg, and I think their crypto coverage is very good, but from a particular point of view, right? I think from a TradFi standpoint, from a like integration with institutional investment standpoint, I do think Bloomberg crypto is pretty important to read. Even if it's just like, even if you hate like TradFi, it's like they're gonna own the whole space. So you need to see what they're doing. I also like CoinDesk, but I do think CoinDesk is a bit biased. And I'll be very honest, like they're, DCG sort of owning them and I don't know, everyone else in the world. I think it's troubling. And, when the FTX story happened, CoinDesk, which does good work, right? They really broke that whole thing. And then it was like, as we discovered the relationship between FTX and Alameda, they were very, very in the middle of everything with excellent coverage. But then, when Genesis, which is also a DCG company, when Genesis started having similar troubles, nobody covered it. Not the mainstream, certainly not CoinDesk, for like months. Because I did a story on it, and I was like, why isn't the mainstream media covering this story? They did later, once they declared bankruptcy, but if CoinDesk doesn't intervene in the FTX situation, I don't know, it might have been a very different outcome, right? They could have maybe intervened earlier, or I don't know. Everything happened very quickly. If anyone remembers, it's like a 1 week, pretty much, where all of a sudden it's like Binance, there's like Sam Bankman-Fried and CZ were like yapping at each other on Twitter, and then it was like, oh, maybe we'll buy you, and then 3 days later, FTX was declaring bankruptcy. But if you really think about the role of media in that, right? Like CoinDesk was really big in terms of like getting that information out. But when it came to the Genesis story, or really like any of the DCG entities, there's a lot of them, they don't have the same level of scrutiny. So for me as a journalist, I go, like, that's cool that you're disclosing potential conflicts of interest, but if you do not cover, right, like spectacularly, I don't know, terrifying potential of companies equally, it's hard for me to trust you as an unbiased news source. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it's wild to me that I found out about that whole FTX scandal and when CZ and SBF beefing through Twitter. Like, I feel like that is a really huge news source for us now.
Yeah, and sure, like Twitter Spaces, I think that you get some good information there. And I do think, some of the shilling becomes a bit too much. And for anyone who's not familiar with the Howey test, you have to be careful because they're gonna adjudicate everything in Web3 as a security, like it or not. I'm from Canada. In Canada, the way we already have sort of workable regulations, and the starting point is that everything's a security. And so the OSC for Ontario, which is the Ontario Securities Commission, they're like, these are the rules, follow the rules or leave. So Binance is banned in Ontario. Kraken banned. KuCoin banned because I think even Tether, they don't want Tether there because they're not transparent enough.
Straight to jail.
Well, I don't know, straight to jail, but you basically can't do business in Canada. I'm not saying that's the way, but I think that that's what everyone is going to do. I don't know if it's right, but I think that they're going to treat everything like a security. So you better memorize the Howey test, because if you do anything that is going to be perceived as a financial crime, which it is, that's why they're fining influencers millions of dollars, right? They're banning people from doing business in the United States. That's why Coinbase just got their license in Bermuda, so Coinbase might bounce from the U.S. market. You have to be very careful, and nobody really knows who they're targeting. But it seems like the SEC, if they decide that they can make an example of you, like if you have a big audience, there's a chance that they're going to try and publicly humiliate you so that they can get their message out, where the SEC is tough on crypto, is tough on Web3, which I don't agree with the way they're doing it, but just be careful because that's clearly what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely trying to make examples. So before we go to the Q&A, is there anything that we didn't discuss today that you would like to highlight, talk about, anything you're excited for in the Web3 space or things that you're concerned about?
I just love the technology of, oh my God. Yeah, I've just been drinking a lot. I love the technology, and I'm always willing to learn more, and you have to. And I think anybody who calls themselves an expert is just lying, because it's like every minute everything is changing all the time. But I think that the more that I really understand the technology, and you can really apply it to corporations, specifically anything to do with payment rails, which is basically the foundation of capitalism, it's not hard to see how it will change every single financial concept in the world. Now the dominant conversation that I'm having in person with people is the tokenization of real world assets. So what does that mean? Like BlackRock has gone on record that they're going to tokenize the entire stock market and the entire bond market. Okay, so that also means anything that's money in the whole world will have like a digital twin. There'll be digital assets, and those markets are going to be way bigger than the economy right now. So that's, imagine every single house, real estate, anything that's owned as property, tokenized and traded on the blockchain. Luxury art, every single financial product, and then they're going to create derivatives. So they're going to create a whole ancillary market based on the speculation of moving those assets. So anything that is money in the real world is going to contribute to the digital assets economy, and that is going to be way bigger with unprecedented speed, unprecedented volume, and will never close. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
That is wild. I don't know about y'all, but I'm overwhelmed. You are a wealth of knowledge. I wish I could just tap into your brain and
I just
and
interview
learn more.
people. I mean, it's just like I'm just interviewing the best people and listening to what they say, and I'm like, holy crap! Like every observation I have is just people telling me, you know, and I'm like, oh, but it's like how many people are paying attention?
So where can people find you, contact you? What are your social media handles?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm just like everybody else, you know. It's like just Google me. My Instagram is at Bobby Del Rio. My Twitter's at Bobman. You know, I'm on all the platforms.
Are your DMs open?
Depends who you are. Don't ask me
just
for money.
Yeah, our audience is like, you
Yeah,
have
and
to
come say
chat
hi.
with you
Like
today.
I'm here for a reason. Like, you know, I'm in LA to like meet people, so come say hi.
Awesome. Okay, let's open this up to Q&A. Igor, over here has the mic.
Jimmy, no, okay.
Oh, wow. Wow.
You got a question. Yeah.
What's the Howey test? Okay, so the Howey test, it's so funny. So for any reason, the Howey test is the way the SEC decides whether or not you've committed a financial crime. So the Howey test is based on the legislation of oranges in, I believe, the 1940s. Okay, so what they did is they evaluated the way oranges were bought and sold, and still almost 100 years later, that is what they're using to determine whether cryptocurrency, NFTs, anything that that resembles security, like, okay, so specifically, it's like an investment. It's 4 concepts, right? You can just Google. It's very specific, but it's so broad that on an episode I said, oh, so that means a lemonade stand would fail the Howey test, right? And it's like an investment of money with the expectation of profit derived from the efforts of others. And then there's a 4th one that's, you know, just as vague, right? It's basically like a bunch of people, you know, selling stuff, and then if they want to make money, then that's a security, right? And like actually, like a lemonade stand fails the Howey test. So be very careful, because anything that is worth money that is transacted between multiple parties under that very limited definition of what a security is could be deemed a security. So that's why they can essentially take anyone in crypto and NFTs, influencer who's doing anything that trades ETH or Bitcoin or dollars or anything, and if they decide you violated the Howey test, you pretty much do, because anything that transacts economically will fail that test.
So careful, Girl Scouts. SEC's coming for you.
Right. Well, I mean, that's so funny you said that, because it's true, right? Under that definition, Girl Scout cookies would fail the Howey test.
No one is safe. No one is safe.
Right.
All right. Do we have any other questions for Bobby Del Rio?
Jimmy.
The
Anybody else?
Wow.
I think you've intimidated
Okay, yeah,
everybody.
perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Okay, we got a question right here.
Hi, thank you for coming, Bobby. I appreciate speakers like you. You know, you're transparent. I'm a fan of your show, and I just wanted. This is a really cool venue. I just had a question. It's kind of a. I just want to pick your brain a little bit and get your opinion on this. So a huge selling point to Web3 and NFTs for me was gaming and how NFTs could be integrated into games and how players could actually have ownership over their assets. Now, even though that was a selling point for me, it's not really a selling point for many gamers and a big portion of the Web2 audiences. In your opinion, how do you think we can win those audiences over?
Well, I think Yuga Labs is going to try, right? I mean, they've got a new CEO now, Daniel Allegra, I think his name is, and he was a big gaming exec over at Activision Blizzard Activision. So the Yuga Labs strategy, so anyone who knows Yuga Labs, it's like they created Bored Apes and they own some of the biggest NFT collections in the world. They're aggressively moving into gaming, okay? So I don't know if it'll work. I did an episode on GameFi that hasn't come out yet, but it's a pretty dominant stream of revenue, and it seems like a pretty reliable stream of revenue. Now, with that said, for me personally, I don't know if I think you're going to get an older audience converted to Web3 by utilizing gaming, because gaming I think is still somewhat of a niche concept, even though it is like a large audience, and there's definitely money there, and we're going to find out what Yuga Labs is doing, where they're going to essentially drive everybody to their other side metaverse through gaming. And they'll probably dominate, people who are 30 and under. But there's no way in hell my mother's going to game. Do you know what I mean? Like, she doesn't even know how to use an iPhone. You think she's going to use a Web3 blockchain game, where you can only access the metaverse through NFTs? She doesn't know what Bitcoin is. So how do you reach that audience? And that is, right now anyway, the biggest audience with the most money. So you're not going to have Web3 scale at the level it needs to unless you reach all of them.
Well, thank you. Great answer.
Oh, that's just my opinion. I don't know. That's the way I see it.
Did your friend have a question as well? Or you? Yes.
They keep talking about everybody going to centralized banking, and speaking of the older audience, there's people out there with money in metal that are stored.
So I can't really hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. So referring to centralized banking, right? Right now you're pretty much in Canada, and we don't have access to your information in the U.S. other than he obviously knows some. But if we go to a centralized banking where everything is digital assets and values, like you were saying, art, how do you track that old money per se, like the older generations where they store metal like gold and silver? I know a lot of doctors that have just metal stored. How is that going to be traceable?
Okay, so is your question about tracing the assets on the blockchain or converting those assets to the blockchain?
Both, yeah.
Yeah, look, I think what's going to happen. So this is why today my talk was supposed to be about the irresponsible mainstream media narrative of Web3. Okay, because I think that what we have is an optics problem, where I don't know. I thought, oh, Bitcoin's a scam because Warren Buffett says it's a scam, and then as I started doing all this research, I was like, oh my god, like this is going to change absolutely everything. I think what we need to do is have responsible narratives that educate people about what blockchain technology really is, how it can be used, and then I think you're going to have, I don't know if people Web3 hate it, but you're going to have intermediaries who are going to have to educate your parents, my parents, people's grandparents, people who have vast amounts of wealth, and essentially do it for them. Now, in terms of the second part, in terms of tracking all of the assets, I think that's the purpose of blockchain. So I think that one's a pretty easy one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions, guys? If not, Jimmy.
The worst for last.
Quick, you have 2 seconds. Love the question.
Oh, wow. Thought I was out of that. First of all, thank you, Bobby, for coming down. I really, really appreciate that very, very much. So it was very informative. Let's give him a round of applause real quick, because I think he deserves that. Thank you. My question is, you've done all this research. You've interviewed a lot of people. What was that moment where you just said, I can't believe that, holy shit. Like, what was that moment that really made you go, wow, this is crazy. I can't believe this happened.
Okay, so I can't believe I got the job, or what do you mean?
As far as all the information that you've gathered, because you said you spend hours and hours kind of getting all that research.
Yeah. It probably happened, to be honest, like before the show started, where so when on Clubhouse, and there's like literally friends here that I made from the app, right? Like, I became pretty confident in that I knew enough about film finance that I could credibly ask questions, and if people were lying about the answers, I could probably catch them in the lie, right? I did not have that level of confidence when it came to blockchain technology and crypto and NFTs, right? Like, I could ask people, oh, what are you doing? And oh, that's cool, and blah, blah, blah. But I knew that if I am unable to parse the nuances, right? Like, if I cannot tell the difference between something that's potentially a rug pull and something that has, real value to an audience, I wasn't going to do my job, right? Because it's like I'm sort of a conduit, right? Like, I'm sort of like a gatekeeper, like, in a way, for information. So anyone who's going to trust my opinion, the onus is on me to understand the content as well as I possibly can, right? So I literally went from being one of the most modded people in the world on Clubhouse, so whatever. It's just like there's like Twitter Spaces, where it's like any room with hundreds or thousands of people, like I was like one of the speakers, like from morning to night. I did that for a year and a half. As soon as I got the job, I left Clubhouse immediately, almost overnight, and began reading about blockchain technology, crypto, NFTs for 16 hours every single day for a year till now. And didn't go for coffee even with a girl, right? So it was like, didn't see my friends, didn't do anything except learn about crypto, NFTs, blockchain technology. It was like in that research phase where I was like, oh my God, what? And then you can, but then that means you can, and then that means you can, like, it was probably about a month in, because at the beginning it was like, wait, what's a liquidity pool? An algorithmic stablecoin? A non-fungible what? And it was very intimidating, even though I knew the basics, when you really get into the concepts, because there's all these terms you don't understand. You have to Google every single thing. Somebody said TradFi. I'm like, what the hell is TradFi? Why is everything a fi? GameFi, TradFi, all these stuff fi's, right? But then as soon as it started to click for me where I could understand everything, so I had like a remedial level of knowledge for like, blockchain as a culture, my math brain immediately went, oh, so the whole world is going to change. And it's like, if you do not invest in Web3 knowledge, I would add AI to that as well. If you do not understand blockchain technology and artificial intelligence, you will not be able to buy a coffee in 3 years. The whole industry, and the industry is like everything that's worth money in the whole world, right? In every country in the world is going to be completely reliant, in my view, on Web3.
Web3 Maxi right here. Let's go. Do we have any more questions before we move on? We have Yunice performing very soon. I'm so excited. Let's give Bobby a round of applause. Thank you so much again for coming to Web3 Wednesday.
And round of applause for Kelly as well. Kelly Dancing Seahorse. Thank you, guys.
Come on through. Find a good seat. Today's going to be an intimate little gatheration. I picked a few songs that I could show you guys that I haven't put out yet, and it's more of a personal, emotionally tied tracks. My first track is called Heart, and today, for example, I was on a metaverse Twitter space call, and a few artists performed in a metaverse setting, and I found myself as an avatar throwing emojis such as like avocado emojis and heart emojis and that. And that just reminded me of a dear friend of mine who's a talented painter and photographer who had a heart attack, passed away at 40, and I just thought about how if he was still here with us, he would totally enjoy the craziness that we're building the metaverse upon. So yeah, this first song's called Heartbeat, and I wrote that for him. Yo, thank you. If you're wondering why artists wear shades, it's because we make weird faces when we're trying to concentrate on the vocals. But yeah, that was hard. And if you don't know me, my name is Yunice. Hello. This is my second time at Nova 3. It's a beautiful space. And I love, being in the center of where the creativity, brewing, and builders, and everybody's just creating cool shit. And so just thank you guys for showing up today. My next song is called Nasty. Exactly. Let's just go. This is called Nasty. Is this the loudest? No? That's much better. You want it, you can get it. Can't wait to do it, feel the same. Are we ready? You done did it. Are you finished? Get the shit, please write if you like. If you want, you can make it happen. What do you think that this could mean? Are you smart? We could not see, but you got one up on me, and I know that you know that I know even trying. All we need is one more life. Baby, they keep you coming back for more. You don't need to sacrifice, baby. I'ma see you begging at the door. If you control for a second, for a minute, you can take it all. What you got is what you get. Let's just keep it nasty, baby. I'ma keep you coming back for more, for more, for more. I'ma keep you coming back for more, for more. I'ma keep you coming back for more. Thank you. These are all unreleased tracks that I'm, previewing, seeing, the response to it. These ropes makes me feel like either I'm gonna attack you, or you're gonna attack me. Either way, it feels kind of cool. No. Oh, blocked again. No. But all jokes aside, the music NFT scene has been really interesting. I dropped my first music NFT in November.
Yeah, you did.
And it's been a good journey to see a whole new audience that appreciate art for the value that the artist sets. Because we be dropping NFTs from anything from $10 to $100 to $60 million for a JPEG rock, and it's a whole new change to what's been done before for the last 20 years, where everyone's kind of expecting artists to give for free in Napster and YouTube and Spotify and all that. So yeah, it's an amazing feeling to be part of that process of changing people's attitude towards music and art. Well, let me stop yapping. I have a third song for you. This one's called A High Fall. It's more of a poetry that I wrote when it was one of the first songs that I ever produced and wrote. So I thought it would be a good time to kind of show you guys another side. Because mind you, last time I did some dark dubstep pop thing last time, but this is more personal. So A High Fall. Like a false alarm, like an urge to wake up, like a silent Friday night, like a love for self-distraction, sweet self-destruction. Got this pressure to win. I see you, I'm giving in before you give up on me. I like to have you convinced you're just sufficient to see, but are you looking for me? Please say you're looking for me. You seem so normal, like I used to be. It's a high fall for me. soon. And with that, I know you better. Isn't nice to be so precious, so nice to be loved. I still love you, but you already know it's falls for me. Do you know this? It's a heart. Falls for me. Do you know this? Thank you guys. Find my latest drops on sound.xyz/Yunice, Yunize. I'll be putting a lot more new music out soon. So yeah, please find me there. Stay in touch. Thank you so much.